everyone. From me, Brent Graham. It's Thursday night. It's time for the Handicap Rugby Chat that matters. And boy, it does Rugby Chat matter on a Rugby Championship weekend. We're going to introduce both guests. We just got the two gentlemen stepping in tonight. We'll talk, of course, Rugby Championship. We're going to be discussing the two big games taking place this weekend. And then Henrik will stay on and talk to us a little bit about the NPC, which also, in fact, I think there was a game midweek and it carries on tomorrow morning. But let's start off at the top of the screen there and introduce the undertaker, Henrik Swart. Henrik, looks like you're somewhere in the North Pole there, mate. Things cold down in Cape Town.
Brent, yeah, it's a bit chilly. We had a bit of rain yesterday and today. Winter, it looks like winter has come at last. We haven't had a lot of rain for a Cape winter. So, yeah, it's very cold here. But, yeah, I guess it's warm a few kilometers from me down Milnerton side where Oracle is after the cracking form he was in last week. So, yeah, no, but thanks for having me on the show. I'm looking forward to the show.
Yes, and before I bring the Oracle in, just to welcome all the boys on the live chat. We had a great turnout last weekend, and this weekend looking pretty good so far. Boys, of course, like Shark Brain saying, well done, Oracle. You were spot on. So let me welcome Oracle to the show and say, Oracle, we're all dying to hear about how much you enjoyed that game last weekend. I mean, when New Zealand scored, now bear in mind, and I might even look for the clip while one of you are talking later and play it, but you were all over the box. But you said, look, guys, if it's -1, -2, -3, I'll make money. But if it's -15, I absolutely clean up. Now, New Zealand scored with about 2 minutes to go to rob you of the cap, only for Willie de Roux to come back and score. What did you go through those final minutes?
I was, you get those moments of shock. I was literally sitting there thinking to myself, where did that come from? And there was that break early in the game. I think it was Bowden Barrett. And I said to my mate, Michael, who's sitting on the couch, and I said to him, geez, these New Zealanders, you give them half a chance and they'll grab it. And they are. They're that good. They're athletic. And, I was horrified. And then, of course, I would say I was horrified. I was semi-horrified because I do know that the game is only over when the whistle goes. And I know any punter worth his salt will tell you that. It's not over until it's over. And I watched the game, and I also know something else that's caught me as much as I've made money from it is when a team scores, the ball is the ball's kicked back to them the other way. So you've always got this chance that there's a 3-pointer or a 5-pointer, something's coming, and they don't always catch the ball. So, yeah, I've been, as much as I've been on the wrong side of that, I've been on the right side. And, those New Zealanders are just throwing the ball like they were throwing Hail Marys. I don't know what they were trying to do, but, yeah, I was a little concerned, probably more than a little concerned, but then, came back and got me what I needed.
Excellent. It was a good win. I'm busy just typing a reply to Shane, but I might as well tell him he's asking about World Cup betting. And what we'll do, Shane, we will discuss quickly the World Cup betting. Just have a quick look at it after we talk Rugby Championships and before Oracle departs and we get on to the NPC. Crow tips coming in there. Oracle's blood is green, literally. Granny's pension. I think it was the Crow tips put on a great little meme on Twitter about Granny's pension. I might just bring that up later as well. But, gents, of course, Oracle, you'll know as well. You're only as good as your last win, as your last week. How many coaches have said that? We've got another week ahead of us, and obviously you're very eager to see what you're going to go for. And we're going to start off with you, and let's look at the Rugby Championship. I just want to bring the outright betting up. You and I had a quick chat. I think it was on Sunday. You said how they're going to be betting, and I said 13-20 South Africa. I see you 15-20. What surprises me though is the second favourite, New Zealand at 2-1. Australia, who convincingly beat, well, in the end the score was convincing. They managed to beat Argentina away. They're 4-1, and Argentina 80-1. So, yeah, what do you make of that outright betting, first of all?
Well, the first thing I noticed, excuse me, Brent. The first thing I noticed is that South Africa's price is effectively halved, or 60% shaved off it, whatever it is. They were anything between 14-10 and 18-10, depending on where you took the bet. But they've gone, half of 18-10. They're into 9-10. I did see, as you've pointed out, 7.5 and 8-10 around. New Zealand prices doubled. They went from 9-10 even money to 2-1. Argentina went from 50-1 to 100-1. But interestingly, Australia's price only moved slightly. They moved from 5-1 to 4-1. And I've got to believe, I'm pretty sure Henrik will agree with me here, but to win this tournament as a non-New Zealand team, you almost have to beat them twice. Beating them once, you don't win this tournament. It's one of those kind of, because there's only 4 competitors, to win this tournament, you've got to beat New Zealand twice. And I'm thinking South Africa if I'm expecting them to, but if they do beat them twice, what price do they go next week? Do they go 3-10? They go 1-5? For me, they've sewn it up. I think this is the end. If they win this game, they've won this tournament. I think it's very difficult for everybody else. I say everybody else, Australia and Argentina, to win this tournament other than New Zealand. I can't see New Zealand winning it. This is probably between South Africa and Australia, depending on how well Australia play against New Zealand. And that we have to think about. And those are the last 2 games. So we still got to wait 4 weeks before that even happens, or 3 weeks. I don't know how long it is. But I'm going to say at 9-10, South Africa are 5-10 to win this game, arguably between 4-10 and just over 5-10. If you like South Africa, take the 9-10 to win the tournament. If you don't have tournament exposure already, because that's a cracking price. They've already won 1 game. We're not going to New Zealand. This is the most important thing here. South Africa are not going to New Zealand to play a game. We are not sitting on those shores. We won't see that long white cloud. We won't hear Justin Marshall on the side of the field in New Zealand. Not going to happen. We're not going there. And that's massive in this tournament. So for me, 9-10 is still a gift. 14, 15, 18-10 last week was huge. And I know the conductor said they were 22-10, but what he didn't say last week is they were 22-10 before Ireland beat them twice. After Ireland beat them twice, they went from 22-10 to 18-10. That's not a big correction. This tournament should have started maybe 12-10 a pair if bookmakers are still worried about New Zealand. But South Africa, anything over 12-10 last week was value. So, yeah, that's my take on it. This is between Australia and South Africa, and it all depends on how well South Africa play in Australia.
Well, let's go to Henrik for his thoughts on the outright. And Shark Brain coming in there, Henrik, and saying Boks have a weak record in Australia, which also lends itself a little bit to what Gavin is saying. And that's kind of the way I'm reading this as well. I'm seeing this as a 2-horse race with the Boks-worthy favourites against, but Australia being the second horse, not New Zealand. What are your thoughts?
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. Yeah, Brent. This is the Boks tournament to lose now. I expect him to win this weekend as well, like Oracle, and the price will then be too low to back them. So if you want exposure on the tournament, now is the time, today, tomorrow, or Saturday during the day, to back them. At the price at odds on for a tournament bet, for me, I don't like taking such short prices. But if you have extra money that you want to invest, you can do it. But yeah, I would rather just go on the prices. But we're talking about the tournament now. Like you said, one of the comments said Australia, so the Boks, they don't have a good record in Australia. But if I remember correctly, the Boks don't play Australia in Brisbane, and Brisbane is like the Eden Park for New Zealand, or our Ellis Park. So that's the tough ground to play them on. So I see the Boks winning at least one of the tests in Australia if they take the strongest team. So that's the other thing we have to consider with Ninabe and Rassie in charge. They do strange stuff. We saw that in the Wales series with that second test. And even I think before the World Cup, 2019 World Cup, Rassie did something in 2018 as well, something like that. I can't remember correctly now. But so that's the one concern you do have. So I won't be putting money on that price on the Boks. But for me, it is the Boks tournament to lose. And I can see the Boks, if they pick their strongest team for every game here or strong thereabouts, I can see them going to this tournament without losing a game.
Right. Well, Henrik, I'm going to stick with you for the match itself. Now, Gavin, you asked on WhatsApp earlier in the week, what's the cap going to be? And I think I said -6.5. So it's come out pretty close to where I expected. And I know you're going to have an opinion on this one. And that's why I'm going to give Henrik first crack at the game. There's nothing like following Oracle after this game. Henrik, -5.5 there. Are you getting involved? Any other markets that catch eye? I did see just popping on, I see the points line here, which unfortunately I lost last week because I was high on points, 45.5, and I went again at halftime at 36.5. The points line 47.5, so it's a couple of points up from last week. Give us your views on this one.
Yeah, Brent, on the handicap, firstly, it's probably the right place where you expect it to come out. Just with New Zealand's the history of New Zealand's rugby, and they've been a good side over years. So you as a bookmaker, you probably have to come out here, but this handicap is way too low. The Boks are going to smash this. I'm very confident of the Boks winning by this handicap should be 15.5. That's where it should be, between where the teams are at the moment. This All Black team, they've got no confidence. They are badly coached. The thing is, we've seen this coming. I've said from the start when Foster was appointed, I predicted this. So I'm probably a bit arrogant now, but I saw this coming, and we as ordinary punters, ordinary rugby people, could see this coming for New Zealand. How could the administrators in New Zealand not see this coming? I can't actually believe that they appointed Foster. They thought, well, we've got the players, New Zealand will always keep winning. But Foster has always had a poor coaching record with the provincial teams he's coached. He is a poor coach. He had poor assistant coaches. John Plumtree is a horrible coach. I know a lot of people would not agree with me on that, but I've never rated him. He's a poor coach. So, and rugby gets one up front. And you've got to have a good forwards coach. That's very important. I'm very confident on the minus because I don't see New Zealand scoring points. And touching on that and going on to the points, I was on overs last week as well, and I'm actually in hindsight, it was a stupid bet. I can't believe I went overs, because how can you go over some total points when New Zealand are not going to score any points? In the third test against Ireland, I actually made a tweet during the first half that I've never seen New Zealand's attack look as poor as it is. They are useless on attack at the moment. They've got no plan. I can't see them scoring points. So it was a stupid bet from my side last week going overs, because how can you go over some total points with New Zealand's not going to contribute, and they're playing against a much better defensive side in South Africa. So this week as well, if you like overs, take Bok overs. Don't take total overs, because New Zealand, they're not going to contribute. They'll maybe score one, maybe if they're lucky, 2 tries. They made a few changes. They brought in Richie Wanga, good change. They've still got a poor front row, in my opinion. They've got a poor scrum off. Aaron Smith is way past his best. I would have started Finlay Christie in this one, just because anything, in my opinion, is better than Aaron Smith at the moment. He's way past his sell by that. They've got 2 very poor centres, David Avili and Rico Ioane. Your number 13 is so important in the defensive channel, and we've got a brilliant 13 in We've got the best inside centre in the world in Lender. We've got the best centre combination against probably the worst centre combination in world rugby. And then we've got the best scrum. We've got a brilliant lineup. I'm a bit concerned about Weber's lineup throws. He's been suspect in that department. So that's my only concern in this Brent. But yeah, I'm confident on the minus on this box. I would be looking at an under New Zealand here, even though it's at altitude. I won't go over some total points here.
Yeah, it's interesting. Last week, it took me about 8 minutes to regret my overs bet last week. But like a lab rat, I stormed in the gate at half time. Don't ask me what I was watching with a big crowd of people, and I wanted to cheer. But anyway, that takes us on to the Argentina game now, Henrik. No, I'm just kidding, Gavin. We're going to come to you now for the Bok game. Right, Gav, you're away, son. It's -5.5. I know you've already taken a bit of +6.5 private bets with guys of that on WhatsApp and stuff like that. What's the verdict here? How big should this cap be? Because, I mean, Hendrik's already said 15.5.
Yeah, sorry, not +6.5, Brent, -6.5.
Sorry, -6.5. Correct.
Just in case people incorrectly follow you there, because we don't want them doing that. But I'll be honest with you, I'm very surprised that this handicap has moved 3 points, because that's what's happened here. I mean, last week they started at a scratch game, and they ended up, they opened at a scratch game. They ended up at -2, which is just a 2-point move for the 4 or 5 days from the opening price. And now after that, South Africa left points on the field there, Brent. But I'm going to start with a little statistic here, which I went and investigated myself today. So I heard that it was a 94-year-old record beating them by 16. So I thought to myself, geez, that's incredible, eh? So we've obviously beaten them by more. Otherwise, they would have said it was an all-time record. So as it happens, South Africa have beaten the New Zealand, the All Blacks 17-0. It was 100 years ago, whatever, 93 years ago, whatever. And I thought to myself, surely we've beaten them by the most, the highest margin ever. But it's not true. The highest margin that this team has been beaten by in 100 years of rugby, or 112 years of rugby, or however long they've been playing, is 19. Nobody has beaten New Zealand by more than 19 points. So the 2 hasn't even arrived yet. 20, 21, 20 has never arrived. And I'm going to tell you, this week, it's arriving. How many? What number follows the 2? I don't know. But this is seriously the absolute worst New Zealand team I've ever seen. In fact, I'm going to suggest that South Africa are good. They're not their best. They can do better. But this New Zealand team is so bad that I'm not going to say anyone can beat them, but anyone who's come close to beating them, like Scotland, have never beaten this team before. I say you give them a crack, they can win this game. This New Zealand team is, and Hendrik told us, and he told us, I think 2 years ago, Hendrik, this is a rubbish coach. He said, this oak's rubbish. Well, maybe not those words, but he suggested he was below par, which he's 100% right. I don't know much about him, and I'm surprised he coached anybody before. I'd never heard of the guy. In fact, I'd never even heard of him after he'd coached 4 games for the All Blacks. That's when I started to understand who people were talking about. But yeah, I mean, they're interviewing this guy, and he's saying, we did well on Saturday. They didn't do well on Saturday. Amazing. Avoiding 0 was, I suppose, is a result for them. They avoided 0. They got a few points. They were very lucky to score a try right at the end, which was obviously negated by extremely bad passing, which wasn't the first attempt at that. We're going to a venue now that has more points, and not just more points for South Africa, but the Lions and every other team. The total points that you get at Ellis Park is always higher than Mbombela. So I'm of the opinion we left a few points on the field, maybe 5, 10, another try, maybe 2 tries we left on the field. We didn't score. We didn't miss any penalties, or I think we missed 1 kick. They didn't have many
penalties. Yeah.
They didn't have many. We didn't give them penalties. Our scrum is working well. I don't know why, but it's working very well. What I mean when I say I don't know why, I don't know which particular player is responsible for that. But honestly, never mind Granny's pension and all of that other stuff. If you sitting there watching the show and you're saying, what do I do this weekend? This is 100% South Africa minus. There is no other bet to take. If you really think New Zealand are going to win this game, take an even 10 Rand with your mother, your wife, your kid, and watch the game. You'll save yourself a fortune. Do not back New Zealand in this match. This is the end for them. In fact, I'm going to suggest that they're playing Argentina next week. Argentina beat them a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago. This Argentina team that failed in the last 20 minutes last week can also beat this New Zealand team. And they'll probably start at 7 and 8 to 1. It's possible. It's not the favorite, sure, but I'm going to suggest anybody can beat this team. They're so bad at the moment. They're clueless. They have no idea what they're doing. Just watch that game again and pick any moment in the game and just watch how they play. They're literally throwing the ball like they have no idea where they're throwing it to. These are Hail Marys that in a normal game you see maybe 1, and an outrageous game you see 2. Yeah, you're seeing 4 or 5. This is teams that are getting the ball, they're going sideways, they don't know where to go, they're not going forwards. And when they're going forwards, they're just getting tackled. And our line speed is so good. We know who's going to get the ball, we know where to deal with it. Malcolm Mark's getting 5. It's funny when you hear somebody say they got 5, right? 5 turnovers. Like, that's massive. In a game like this, if you get 3, it's massive. He's getting 5. That Carrot Top Oak that won the under 20, I can't remember his name, Kitsoff, I think it is. And he also stole a couple of balls. I mean, this is a South African team that's confident. Now, so I'm hearing this week and I'm reading New Zealand, they say they're not scared of this Ellis Park story. You know why they're not scared? Because they've arrived with decent teams in the past. And they've They've never smashed us at Ellis. Well, they haven't smashed us at Ellis Park that I can remember. If they've won, it's been 10 or 8 or 7, and they've won the game. But this is not a beat South Africa by 10 game. And I was looking at some of the prices today and thinking to myself, how would anybody? And I'm going to use Couch Critic here. He loves to take the 4 to 10s. I think in the 4 to 10 on New Zealand is like +7 or 8. And I'm thinking, I couldn't take that. This is more than 8. This is more than 10. 16 last week was, yes, we scored at the end and they scored at the end. We still were winning by 16 before that. This is record time. We've waited 102. We've had 102 test matches. This is now number 103. Whatever record we had, 17-0. I'm not going to suggest they're going to get 0 today. Modern rugby teams barely get 0 in cases like this. They'll get their 3 or 6. I don't think New Zealand score a try. If New Zealand get 12 points in this game, it's a lot. Henrik was right. If you're going to go overs, rather go over on South Africa. But I'm going to guess that the total points in this game probably going to be about 47, let's say, 46, 47, around about that number.
47.5, Gav.
Okay, so if it's 47.5 and there's a 5-point handicap, that's 42, that's 21. New Zealand are not going to get 21. South Africa would be 26.
You're right, box 26.5.
Yeah, so 26-21. I'm going to say that, yes, South Africa should get more than 26, but it's more likely that New Zealand get less than 21 than South Africa get over 26. There can be a lot of points. Yeah, sure, there can be 60 points in this game, but they're not coming from New Zealand. They just aren't. This team it's the end for them. If they don't change this coach next week, Argentina will beat them twice. This is it for them. It's over. So now we spoke about the handicap being 3 points different from 2 to 5. So the -14 I got last week at 5, I got it at 5.2 at the end. So just over 5 to 1. Today, I've got to take -17 at 9 to 2. So I'm losing 10% of my price, but I'm giving away another 3 points. So it's the same as the 2 to the 5 measure. 15 to 18. I can only win at 18. I did see that WSB had a couple of handicaps that went right up to 30. I was amazed when I saw -30 was 10 to 1. That's wrong. That should be 30 to 1, even with this team, because New Zealand are not, when I say they're rubbish on New Zealand standards. If South Africa win this game by 30, I would be surprised. But honestly, I think it'd be just over 20, 21, 22, 23. If you can get yourself a -15, 16, 17, 18 at 4 to 1 or bigger, that's the kind of punch you should be taking here. And if you're really worried, don't take -5.5. Take -9.5 and get your 18 to 10, 17 to 10, 15 to 10, whatever it is. That's some value as well if you're really worried about it. Because as you saw last week, there could be a free try. But honestly, this is not about South Africa being fantastic here. They're good, but they're not fantastic. They're still building. This is absolute 100% rubbish New Zealand. Simple.
Right. Well, I'm going to go on to the next game. I think I'm going to start with Henrik just because I don't think he's spoken for quite a long time. That might have been the longest speech that I've ever heard where I haven't got a word in edgeways. But good, confident thoughts there from the Oracle. Henrik, I'm going to give you first crack at this one as well so you can rest up for the NPC. It's funny though, hey, the Bok New Zealand game just grabs all the headlines. This is very much, I didn't get too involved in this game last weekend either. And it's just like, it's almost like no one really cares about this game, but obviously still a betting prospect. We've got Argentina here +4.5, which is round about where I handicapped the game. They were leading. I thought they were going to win last weekend. They were leading comfortably, and in the end, the Aussies won well. What's going to happen here, Henrik?
Yeah, Brent, just before I go into this one, like you said now, the New Zealand and the Boks at the moment, all the news is about that because everybody it's so I can't remember the word now, but it's so shocking that New Zealand is so bad at the moment that it dominates the news, and so you actually have to go and search for news on Australia and Argentina. But yeah, also just before I go into this one, like Oracle said, now the Boks, they're good, but they're not playing excellent rugby as much as they dominated last week, and it was the most that ever seen them dominate New Zealand. I've never seen them dominate New Zealand like they did. The Boks weren't that good even. It's just New Zealand are so poor at the moment. They made Ireland look very good. And Ireland, they're not that good a side. Everybody says, yeah, Ireland best side in the world, the second best side in the world, whatever. Ireland are not that good at the moment. It's just New Zealand that made them look so poor. Okay, let's go on to this one then. Sorry about that. Australia, they've had a lot of injuries. I was on Argentina to win last week. I was on Argentina plus and Argentina overs. Luckily, my biggest one of those was over 20 or 21.5 points on Argentina, and that arrived. So that thanks to that, I just made a small loss on that game because I was on the plus and the win as well. But Australia had a lot of injuries coming into that game. They had Hooper, who pulled out late, and now they've got some new, fresh injuries as well. Ante Pasami pulling out today. I'm going to go for Argentina again, and I'm going to be on the plus here, and I'm going to take them to win the game as well. Australia, well, and in that first half, it looked like Argentina might win the game, and Australia came back well in the second half. I just feel with all the injuries, I have to go for the home side here again. And like Johan says, the overs on this game as well. I agree. The defense, the way Argentina scored tries in that first half, it was so easy. It's like, if you watch the Bok game before that, the defense was brilliant, and then you watch this game, and it's like easy to get over the gain line. You get it. Argentina get a attacking line out in the 22, but not close to the goal line, and just get over the gain line by 3 or 4 meters with every phase. It was so easy. So I think there will be points in this one again, and I'm going for Argentina on the plus and to win the game.
Right, let's go up to Oracle then on this one. I was just getting a bit of feedback, so I knocked him off there, but he's back on. Oracle, this game, I know you didn't get too involved last week. I think like many of us, you fancied Argentina, but do we go in on Argentina a bit, perhaps on the board this time?
I did get involved last week because of my South African one. I almost gave back 30% of my profits on the South African game on this game. And let me tell you, I didn't feel disappointed at all. 19-10 up. I've got a fire going outside of my fire pit. I walked out, I came back, I saw it was 26-19 with 20 minutes to go. Do me a favor, they're going to win by 15. I came back with 2 minutes to go, and they've scored 24 unanswered points. I don't know what happened. I didn't watch it, and I'm going to tell you, I didn't watch the replay either. I'm leaving it to, it happened. I don't know, but that was crazy. I don't know what happened, and I think that's, they won that game against Scotland. They lose the next one, and they got thumped. Then they win the next one. Okay, it wasn't comfortable, but they won. And they go into this game and they 26-19 up with 26-17 up. They were up by 9 with 20 minutes to go. Who's up by 9 with 20? I mean, let's use the South African example. We're leading by 16 and suddenly we lose by 10. 26 points or whatever. We lose by 8. People are going to be, what? What just happened? Because I watched the whole first half. I walked outside at halftime thinking, well, this is, and I had no inclination of back in Australia. No inclination. And look, they can win this weekend, but I'm going to reserve my, I will punt them on the board and I'll punt them on the plus, but it's 100% subjected to, related to how much money I make on the South African game, because I'm not putting money up now. And in fact, that handicap moved last week from, I think it was 8, like Tuesday, Wednesday, it was 8.5. And at the kickoff, at the starting price was 3.5. I mean, that handicap moved 5 points. They're leading by 9 and then they lose. I don't know. It was odd, but yeah. Australia lost to England twice. They looked in all sorts of trouble in the first half in this game last week. They had 20 minutes of decent rugby and they won the game by, I don't know, 14 points or whatever it was. There's no confidence on Australia here. This is Argentina for me, but only, it's a very small bet compared to South Africa. Right now, it's very small.
As you say, you'll wait and see also how your previous game goes. 50.5 is the points line, as Brendan Vessels says, the conductor. Last week, plenty of points in it. And the Croatians making the point that a weak Australian or an injured Australian side often does lead to a high-scoring match. So overs,
that's high, inland, like altitude, that San Juan. I don't think it's on the coast.
My geography was never my strong point. I'm not sure, but I'm sure if Henrik can't point that out, someone like the conductor probably can. Well, let's go. Oracle, let's just get. I mean, we're pretty limited this week in terms of your choice of best bets, and we kind of know what it is, right? We got a pretty good idea. But
you wanted to talk about the World Cup, and I'm happy to talk about that for a couple.
Let's do that. Let's bring up some World Cup betting.
Yeah, what Henrik's thought process here is, as well, because for me, I think that France are too short. I know they're at home, and yes, they are worthy favourites, but I think at 5-2 they're a little bit short. I'm not suggesting that they shouldn't be favourites. It's almost like the bookmakers are trying to come up with some sort of way of making up their 115% or whatever they bet on these tournaments, because it's too short for me. We've been used to New Zealand starting tournaments, as I said last week, at 14-10, 15-10, 18-10, maybe 2-1. France at 5-2 just seems a little bit short. I know that some of it would be because of New Zealand not being favourites, but it still feels short. For me, the value, definitely South Africa and Ireland at this price. I think you're getting Ireland at 7 or 8-1. I think it is a bit of value. It's a European World Cup. For me, South Africa, they've won there before. They are the form team at the moment. I know that France haven't lost a game in 10, 12 games or whatever it is, but they're too short. At 5-2, they're too short. South Africa and Ireland at 7s, 6.5, 7, 8-1. There's a bit of value there. I wouldn't touch New Zealand at this price. I think it'll go out a little bit. Australia, there's no evidence that their price should be short either. And England, we're only really going to know after that Six Nations next year. And I think those 7-2 or 33-10, a little bit short as well for me. So if you're going to take an early strike in the World Cup, right now, Ireland and South Africa are the only teams that are likely to shorten and that offer a bit of value from a mathematical point. But honestly, any one of 5 teams can win that tournament next year. Rugby is not like soccer. It's too far away to know really what's going. Teams have to peak. And we don't know what South Africa is going to do over the next year. We don't know, they might change the New Zealand coach and this Razor or whoever. In fact, they might even surprise us and come out with somebody else. And suddenly, that New Zealand team's great on paper. They just need to be educated, and they need to be, given, we used to call it when I was young, an AAK, an attitude adjustment club. They need one of those to get themselves back into line or what they should be doing, because they've lost their way. They've lost their, they never won GPS. They've lost their map book.
I'm sure you took a few AAKs in your time there, Gav.
And gave one.
Let's get Henrik's opinion on the World Cup betting, because the thing for me about the World Cup, the tough thing, Henrik, is that you just know that 2 of the top 4 teams are effectively bowing out, and that's why England are probably quite a short price, because they got a pretty easy run through potentially to the semis. But you know that Ireland and South Africa in a group, and then they play New Zealand or France, and we're just assuming that Scotland don't cause an upset in the group, which is not impossible either. I mean, that's what makes it difficult to get involved. What is your views? I have to say that if you look at it on face value, South Africa are the value here. And I've said all along, for me, the one team that can stop France is South Africa, and I put it down purely to the forward packs. I still say Ireland, you can see it with Leinster when they play the club. They look brilliant until they come up against a pack that muscles up against them. And I think the same thing might happen to this Irish side. I think they're going to be better than they're not going to be hammered like they were last World Cup, but I think they're going to battle against the strong pack. So for me, it's South Africa and France. And South Africa at double the price, I think, are a bit of value. What do you think?
Now, Brent, in my opinion, it's also a 2-horse race between South Africa and France. Both of them they've got tough groups, and also that they're going to have a tough quarterfinal because New Zealand and France in the same group, South Africa, Ireland, and Scotland, like you said, in the same group. So that's a tough half of the draw. And then England, Wales, Australia, all of those, they have a much easier run into the playoff games. So let's say France beat New Zealand in the pool stages. Then South Africa beat Ireland in the pool stages. South Africa get New Zealand to the quarterfinals. France get Ireland in the quarterfinals. And you've got one of those big guns dropping out, not even making the semis. So yeah, it is a tough one, but you've got to beat the best in the end. Most likely you have to beat the best to win the title. And like you said, now South Africa and France, they've got the packs to compete. And in my opinion, I've always been a big believer of rugby games get one up front. It doesn't, especially in World Cup games, defense wins you games, set pieces wins you games, and the forwards, you have to dominate the breakdown. You have to get quality ball out of the breakdown, or you have to disrupt the opposition's breakdown. So forwards win the games. Flashy backs will in loose games. It looks great, and fans love it. But the forwards wins you games. And South Africa and France, they've got the best forwards. Ireland's forwards, they looked good against New Zealand, just because New Zealand have terrible forwards at the moment. Their set pieces are horrible. The scrum is a mess. They've got a poor line out. So yeah, like you, I don't believe Ireland have the forwards to beat South Africa and France. In my opinion, 2-horse race, and then obviously South Africa double the price of the hosts. You've got to go for South Africa. That's good value.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Gav, let's get on to your best bet now for the game. What are you taking? Handicap, box, overs points, New Zealand unders points, all three?
Yeah, I've taken some -6. That's just a starter. But my main bet this weekend will be minus 12.5. I'll have a decent strike, and then I'm going to have another decent strike at minus 17.5. Only because I found that to be value. The firms that have got minus 18, 19, 22 on their prices are wrong. So I'd rather have a bigger strike at 17. But I'm also of the opinion that we're at record 100 test match record levels here. I mean, I'm not going to suggest that it's absolutely going to happen. They'll win this game by more than 20, because that will be 103rd game where we break that record. I'm just going to suggest that it's a big runner. House, no. You can stick your granny's pension on anything under 15 here for me. More than 20 or more than 18, it's that extra try. And I just think it's going to happen. I think we beat them comfortably here, more than comfortably. I'm going to suggest that Foster character doesn't even get on a plane with him. He'll go into isolation here somewhere in South Africa. He won't go back home because it's not going to be fun there. Henrik, I'm interested in. You've obviously seen that Stuff website, but I tell you, I've been reading the last week or so, last couple of weeks, and I can count on both my hands. In fact, I can count on my one hand how many people actually said, "Well done, South Africa." Everybody else, and we're talking about hundreds of people here. It's all New Zealand are rubbish, New Zealand are crap. The coach is this, the coach is that, the captain. I mean, that Sam Cane comes on, he goes, "Yeah, we're not intimidated by Ellis Park." They bang on the bus on the way in. Like, stop looking outside. Start looking inside. I mean, I don't know. New Zealand won't come close here. How far away it is, anybody's. It's race over. Han, from a game perspective, they won't win this game. At 0.47, it's below my line. If you like 0.47, you can take your 0.47. You're not losing here. This is race over. South Africa will win this game. And sorry, one more thing about the Rugby Championship outright. We had Harry on the show last week talking about bonus points. New Zealand didn't get a point. That's huge. That's massive. I think, in fact, I'm going to suggest it's probably the first time they haven't got a point in South Africa with Rugby Championship. I think they've always come within 7 of us here. I can't remember when last we beat them by 8 or 10 points. I can't remember. It's a rare occurrence. Let's put it that way. New Zealand not getting a point.
Yeah, good to see Couch on the show there. Couch, let us know a hookers thing. Couch, you'll be proud of me. Last week I didn't win, but I had a free bet. I think it's 250 Rand at Sunbet, and I stuck it on Marks to score the first try. And I was watching with a group of people, and I can't remember. We had that first scrum. And I said, we're going to win the scrum penalty. We're going to kick it into the 22 and we're going to score the try. I got 2 out of 3. Unfortunately, we didn't get the try there. But I was going for it. So, Couch, if you fancy anything this weekend, I know Couch has got his show that he does normally in Afrikaans, and he's doing it tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken. That's why he hasn't been on our show for a while. It's normally on a Thursday. So, good to see you there, Couch. And just Steph and Sharkbrain having a bit of a debate. Let's put it this way, guys. The Ireland-South Africa match at the end of the year is going to be very interesting, the way the lads are going on in the live chat there. But Gavin, Oracle, great to have you on the show. Look forward to hopefully another confident synopsis from you and sort of savouring a couple of winning bets.
Yeah, thanks, Brent. I just want to point out something, and I took a bit of heat a couple of weeks ago, and I'd just like to say to the public, the commenting public, and Henrik, you know about them as well, and Brent, as much as the abuse I've got over the years, it's been years now, actually. I started this little journey in 2017, blamed my kid today, started on the couch that Wednesday night all those years ago. But you know what? Listen, everybody, whoever's watching, and thanks very much for the very nice. I got a lot of private messages this week thanking me. You know, it's all good. I don't take any of you personally. I don't have any issues like that. You want to throw me abuse, throw it to me. But it's funny. As much, I understand people want to get abusive when you get, when you get it wrong. That's fine. But you're welcome to come on the show with us if you want to. But thanks to the boys on the chat here and Twitter and some private messages. Thanks very much. I really appreciate it. It made my week that much better. Thanks very much.
Excellent. That was Oracle Rugby. Oracle, great to have you on, mate. Hope you'll stay on and watch the NPC for some bets there as well.
Oh,
thanks to Gavin. Great stuff, man. Right, Henrik, let's move on to some Bunnings NPC. Interesting. I see there was a bit of a midweek game there. But I haven't really got my teeth into this yet. I'll see what sort of confidence you've got before deciding whether to do a rugby acca in the newsletter tomorrow. But let's start off Hawke's Bay minus 16.5 against Counties.
Yeah, Brent, I didn't have the best start on the tournament. I got Canterbury on the first game, and then over the weekend on Sunday was my 2 big plays, and I got Taranaki Arabi wrong, and I got Southlet correct. And then yesterday morning, I went for Manawatu again and lost there again. So I haven't had the best of starts, and unfortunately, I've been extremely busy with work the past couple of days. So I haven't done a lot of research, but I'll give it my best here. This one tomorrow morning is the first Shield challenge of the year. Hawke's Bay at home defending the Shield against Counties. Counties, they caused a bit of a shock last week, beating who was it? Was it Otago, right? Otago were quite fancied.
Otago were highly fancied. I know Conductor, I think, fancied them last.
And Counties, they beat them by 1 point in the end at home. That was quite impressive. Hawke's Bay, they were impressive in their first game away to Waikato as well, drawing there, going to Golden Point. So 16.5 at home for Hawke's Bay. I'm leaning Counties here. I know it's a Shield challenge, the Hawke's Bay. They're big on the Shield challenges. They always get up. But in my opinion, they're missing Ash Dixon. They will miss Ash Dixon a lot this year. Brad Weber is there. He's an inspirational captain as well, but not at the levels that Ash Dixon was, especially with the Shield challenges. So I've got Counties on the plus here on this game. Not very confident, but I think it's the right way to go here. Hawke's Bay will win the game, but I don't see them winning by more than 16.
And quickly, I see this is the only game where I've got a points quote, 53.5.
I haven't had any look at conditions or anything here. Most of the games so far has been overs. There was a few games that was very low. And then most of the other games, like way over the overs quote. So, in my opinion, if you go, I love going unders, and I have to believe that over a long period of time in rugby games, if you go unders blindly, you'll make money. But I reckon on the NPC, if you go overs blindly, over the year, you'll make a profit. New Zealand, they don't have a focus on defense. they just want to entertain, and yeah, it's come back to bite them at the highest level now. But yeah, I think go overs. If you unsure, go overs unless you have a really strong fancy on an unders game.
Right, a couple of the boys piping in there on the NPC being predictable. So Sharpbrain Johan is also records overs. I did see a comment from Chris at the Crow Tip saying he likes Couch Critic on the show as much for his little jibes at me and putting me in my place as his bet. So yeah, interesting that I have to watch Couch when he comes back on. But Couch, it certainly will be good to have you on the show again sometime soon. Conductor having the final word on that game. Ben O'Keefe is ref, but Hawke's Bay should cover this by themselves. Right, let's go on to the next game. Otago, I think, proved costly to follow last week. At plus 5.5 here, Hendrik against Tasman.
Now, Tasman over the past few years have been very good to me, and I've followed them and made good money backing them. But in my opinion, they're not the Tasman of old. I had a quick look at their team just before the show, and on paper, it doesn't look very good. They've got Levi Amua, the inside centre, who I rate highly, and he's, in my opinion, he's carrying that team. Like literally the way he carries defenders on his back, he's a very strong 12. But apart from him, there's not much on paper for that Tasman team. And Southland ran them close, and they could have won that game. Otago, they've dropped Josh Ioane. They've brought in the under 20 New Zealand under 20 fly off, who's rated highly. And the Otago team looks good on paper. At home, Otago, I think they can win this game. So I like the plus 6.5 here.
Right, the plus for Otago there for Hendrik. If you do enjoy the show, give us a like. It certainly helps the rankings. And yeah, if you don't catch the show live and you still want to have your say, do leave us a comment down below. I always enjoy chatting with the guys over the weekends in the comment section. Let's move on to the next game, Hendrik. We've got Northland plus 11.5 against Waikato.
Now, Northland went Taranaki, and they beat Taranaki. I was confident on Taranaki minus 17.5 against Northland, and Northland upset them and won in a very low scoring game, 13-11. And Waikato, they drew at home against Hawke's Bay. So this one, the Northland getting a 13.5, well, 11.5 at playoff pitch. I'm looking at Sunbet on my side, so you get thereabouts. A double-digit start to Northland at home. You can't ignore Northland going to Taranaki and winning away from home. So yeah, you've got to take the plus here. Even though Waikato, they are a decent team. They won the premiership last year. I think Northland plus all the way. Yeah.
Right, the next game, Canterbury, who were pretty impressive last week with a massive win over Manawatu, I think it was. Canterbury minus 7.5 against Wellington.
Yeah, I've not seen. I've seen the Wellington team, but I haven't seen the Canterbury team. I suspect Canterbury will pick the strongest side here because it's against Wellington. They're a good side. But yeah, this Canterbury team, they were so impressive last week. Their scrum dominated. Owen Franks, that's a massive acquisition for them. And yeah, it starts up front. I think this is too low. At home, I can see Canterbury beating this one comfortably. I like the minus a lot here, Brent.
Yeah, the other guys on the chat seem to be in agreement there. Next game, Bay of Plenty, Hendrik, minus 1.5 against Taranaki.
Yeah, Taranaki, they were good to me last year, but just they were shocking last week. Bay of Plenty, I'm sorry. Like I said, I didn't do a lot of work. Yeah, they just lost against Wellington in Wellington in a high-scoring game by two points. Yeah, I've got to go for Taranaki again. Yeah, at that price, it's, if you get I'll call Taranaki to win the game and even money. I'm a big fan of their coach, Neil Barnes. He's a no-nonsense, hard-nosed type of coach, and yeah, I think he would have drilled the guys this week, and I'm hoping than expecting a bounce back from Taranaki. After last week, I can't be confident, but yeah, I'm calling Taranaki for the win. Yeah.
Right, Southland plus 14.5 against Auckland.
Now, Brent, Southland, they used to be the boys that took 60, 70 points every week in, week out from teams. They hardly scored a try. And from last year, they started turning it around. And I like their coach as well. And they, like I said, they could have beaten Tasman in Tasman in Nelson last week. Probably Auckland winning by a lot of points yesterday against Manawatu with the second string team got us 2 or 3 points on this one. I like Southland a lot here, Brent. This handicap 14.5, two converted tries. Brent, I want to go as far as calling Southland to win the game.
Really?
I won't be upset. I won't be surprised to see them beating Auckland here. I expect a very good season from Southland. I'm very confident on the plus, and I won't be surprised to see them winning the game.
Well, I'm looking for a best bet for the newsletter. When Henrik starts suggesting that a 14.5 point underdog might be able to win the game, it's certainly going to come into play for the newsletter best bet. If you haven't subscribed yet, there will be a link down below. Conductor rubber stamping that one, saying Stags all the way. Antlers up, baby. Really like that one. Nice one there, Conductor. Let's move on to the last game then of the weekend, Henrik. North Harbour minus 14.5 against Manawatu.
Manawatu, they were very good last year, but they've had 2 horrible games. They
played yesterday as well, on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so they're playing 3 games in a week.
Yes, like Auckland as well.
Okay.
So they took more than 100 points in their first 2 games. So they, as good as they were last year, it doesn't look good for them this year. North Harbour, they played very well against Auckland in that first game. Let me just check out. They lost by 10 points in the end against Auckland, but they actually looked quite good. And at home, minus 14.5, I like North Harbour a lot. Yeah, I think they'll beat this minus easily. And I think there will be a lot of points in this game as well.
Conductor, certainly agreeing with you there on the minus. And this could be one. Let's have a look at the 6:35 Sunday morning. So things didn't go your way very well on Saturday. You could wake up nice and early South African time. And great that we got a couple of New Zealanders watching the show, and Mark, of course, watching in Asia as well, nice and early in the morning. So we got guys watching all over at all times. Right, Henrik, it's that time of show for you as well. Let's get your best bet or best bets for the weekend.
Yeah, Brent, you probably won't be surprised that I'm going for Southland because I won't, like I said, I won't be surprised at them winning the game. So 2 converted tries at home. It's Auckland's 3rd game in a week. They're going to play their best team, and they did well beating North Harbour. North Harbour's quality side. But I just like the Southland side this year, and I expect a very good season from them. My best bet, Southland plus 14.5. And the second best, probably the box and the minus.
Excellent. Good stuff, Henrik. That's the best bet. Just a reminder, you can also go on to the Good for the Game website. For our written previews, we'll be having those up. I think the templates are probably up already, but we'll have those up sometime tomorrow, and also the newsletter going up. But Henrik, thanks very much. Great to have you back on the show. And I look forward to you following your tips there on the NPC as well as on the Rugby Championship. It was great having the Oracle. And, of course, all the boys on the live chat, great contributions as always. Another exciting edition of the Handicap. We look forward to next week. First of all, Henrik, just quickly, is there a week off now between Rugby Championship games, or is there Rugby Championship next week?
I actually don't know, Brent. I've got no idea. Because the teams have to travel now. I'm not sure. I haven't looked that far ahead. You can maybe you can maybe check quickly if you want to. I just want to also give a big ups to the guys on the comments. I enjoy. While the show's on, you probably see me glancing onto my right sometimes. I read the comments, and the comments from the guys, top class and quality comments. And I enjoy all the comments from the guys. So thanks for the guys tuning in, making time, watching the show. I enjoy being on the show, and it's knowledgeable guys following the show and watching the show, and I really enjoy, and lots of times you get comments from the guys, and I switch my mind and I look at the game differently, and I get a lot of bets from the comments. So yeah, thanks for the comments, guys.
Excellent, yeah. And also, even if we have a bit of disagreement, as long as it's done in a respectful way, it's always good to see a bit of debate and that on there. Conductor, just confirming what I'm also just looking at here, that we do have a 1 week break, which means next week will probably be focused on NPC. We'll obviously have a little chat on Rugby Championship. We'll probably give Oracle the week off, then hopefully to sober up and join us the following week. But Hendrik, great to chat to you. We'll see you guys next week for the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters.